everyone, welcome back. So if you've been following along, you saw my recent video where I was calling out Microslop, Nvidia, and basically the entire AI industry for just kind of this desperate attempt that they seem to have to gaslight us into thinking AI skepticism is just negativity that we need to get over. But here's the thing, the news stories and the failures are piling up so fast that as I was trying to write this follow-up, more stuff just kept happening and I was never going to get ahead and it was not going to fit in one video anyway. So I'm going to start a new series that I'm calling the Microslop Chronicles. Even though it's not all about Microsoft, they would really like us to stop saying Microslop. So I'm just going to name this little series after them because I think it's funny and I want them to keep crying. So we're going to be tracking this whole disaster, I guess, that we can call it, of AI and maybe watch the events unfold in real time. So today is just going to be episode 1, trying to catch up on some stuff here. And we're going to just follow the money because when you look at the actual financials, not the hype, not the promises, but the real numbers, AI is turning out to be a complete train wreck. I mean, we're talking billions in losses, desperate moves to find revenue, and some financial schemes that look an awful lot like 2008 and a certain bubble all over again. So let's dig in here. First up, let's start with the child of the AI boom, OpenAI. The company that's supposed to be leading us into this glorious AI future. They are on track to lose, get this, $14 billion in 2026. Not million, billion, bravo, with a B, billion. And according to multiple financial analysts, they could literally 2027. Now think about that for a second, okay? The company everyone points to as proof that AI is the future might go bankrupt in the next couple of years. Probably not, but they're not looking so good right now. And here is exactly how bad it is. Okay, so they lost that $12 billion in a single quarter. They're just burning through $15 million every single day just to keep the lights on and running tools like Sora, that video generator that people keep running JD Vance through, Just Dance Vance, right? All those videos that you see, they're just all AI generated. They're funny, but they're expensive. And one of their engineers called it unsustainable, which I would agree, because the math gets worse when you actually break it down. In 2024, OpenAI brought in about $3.7 billion in revenue. Sounds good, right? Until you look at their operating costs, which were closer to $7 billion. They're losing money on every dollar that comes in. But wait, it gets better. And by better, I mean worse for them. You know how Sam Altman said putting ads in ChatGPT would erode user trust? Well, guess what they just announced? Just guess. Guess for me. That's right. Ads in ChatGPT, starting with the free tier and their new Go subscription. They're trying to spin this as making AI accessible to everyone, but come on, this is just desperation. This is a company that's hemorrhaging money and needs revenue from anywhere they can get it because most people aren't paying for ChatGPT. It's not even regular ads. Internal documents show that they've been discussing giving preferential treatment to sponsor content in ChatGPT's actual responses. So, for example, maybe you ask about headache relief and you describe all your symptoms. And instead of being told you should drink more water, you get an Advil ad disguised as advice. And they swear up and down the ads won't influence the responses, but come on. Do you believe that? They're literally building the infrastructure to do exactly that. This is just corporate doublespeak off the charts right now. And here's where it gets even more sketchy, okay? You've got this whole circular financing thing happening right now, right? Let me explain how it works here, okay? So, Nvidia invests money in OpenAI. Then, OpenAI turns around and spends that money buying Nvidia GPUs. Microsoft invests $13 billion in OpenAI. OpenAI then spends a huge chunk of that money on Microsoft Azure cloud services. So the money just keeps circulating between the same companies, and it makes it look like it's a thriving ecosystem, but it's basically financial incest. Can I say that on YouTube? We'll find out. Everyone's just propping each other up with the same pool of money. Goldman Sachs put out a report saying the AI industry needs to spend over $1 trillion, with a T, trillion, tango, trillion of dollars on infrastructure just to meet the demands that they're projecting. Here's the problem. That demand isn't showing up yet. The math doesn't work. The money's not coming in. And get this, it gets better. Yale put out a report warning that this whole setup could trigger a 2008 style chain reaction, bursting all these little bubbles that supposedly don't exist, right? When one of these companies fail, it's going to take others down with it because they're all so interconnected. We've literally seen this before. And it's not just OpenAI either. The entire startup ecosystem is starting to show cracks. According to PitchBook, AI startups raised $25 billion in the first half of 2024, which sounds impressive until you realize the number of actual deals dropped by 22%. What that tells you is all the money is going to a handful of companies, while everywhere else and everyone else is just getting left out in the cold. Even some of the well-funded ones are beginning to fall apart. Startups that raised millions just a year or two ago are quietly shutting down because they can't get customers to actually pay for the product. Then you've got Nvidia, who's been riding the AI wave to a $3 trillion market cap. But they're facing a massive problem in China. And I just want to say, a lot of people are running with this story saying Nvidia is going to collapse, Nvidia is failing. That's not the case right now. But this is still a decent hit to their market share. Because in China, that market share is collapsing from 66% down to 8% in 2026. And that's because of US export bans with Chinese companies like Huawei building their own chips. And that's $10 to $12 billion in annual revenue just disappearing. But it's even worse than that because Nvidia, the company that said you don't need to code anymore, there's some news coming up about them, hopefully in the next episode of this, because I want to punch the dude in the face right now. But essentially, they're creating their own competition. And the Chinese companies are building alternatives, and eventually they will export those chips to other markets. So Nvidia isn't just losing China, they are starting to lose their monopoly position globally. Punch the guy in the face. Next episode. But here's the kicker, okay? All this money is being invested into AI and AI companies. And yes, AI has some good uses. We do crap all over it here. There's reason for it. However, for the most part, no one's actually using it. Microsoft has committed over $50 billion to AI infrastructure. They're building data centers. They're buying Nvidia chips in bulk. They're pouring money into OpenAI, but according to their own internal metrics, only 7% of enterprise customers who have access to Copilot actually use it regularly. Doesn't surprise me. Copilot sucks. And then the term regularly is applied very generously. It kind of just means you open it up once a week. So That's great. Google is in a similar boat where they've spent billions on Gemini and AI infrastructure, but their AI overview feature keeps giving people dangerously wrong information, like telling people to put glue on pizza or eat rocks. And no, I'm not making this up. Here's a stat that should alarm everyone. Gartner is predicting that 70% of corporate AI initiatives are going to fail. That's not 70% will underperform. That 70% will just flat out fail. Sequoia Capital, one of the biggest VC firms in the world, put out a report showing that the AI industry spent about $100 billion on infrastructure in 2024, but only generated about $10 billion in actual revenue. That is a 10-to-1 cost to revenue ratio. That's bad. That's not a business. It's not even bad business. That's a bubble. All right, so the money's not working, but at least AI is making companies more efficient, right? By replacing workers, for an example. No. That is even backfiring spectacularly. Over 80,000 jobs were cut in 2024, and it's attributed to AI. IBM froze nearly 8,000 positions. BT Group announced that they were cutting 55,000 jobs by 2030, but here's what's happening. The AI replacements are failing so badly that companies are having to either rehire people or just deal with their service quality falling off a cliff. Salesforce is the perfect example. Okay, so they cut 4,000 customer service jobs, going from 9,000 employees down to 5,000. Their CEO bragged about saving 17% on costs. And here we are, 6 months later, reports start coming out that the AI is failing on complex customer queries. That's not good. It can't handle context, can't understand nuanced problems, can't do anything that requires actual judgment. And because of this, customer satisfaction dropped by 15% on average across the industry. And Salesforce had to quietly walk it back and keep humans in the loop for anything important. So now they're paying for AI infrastructure and human staff, which might actually just cost more than keeping the humans in the first place. Same thing, by the way, happened at Klarna. Their CEO made headlines claiming their AI chatbot was doing the work of 700 customer service agents. Tech press called it the future of work. 6 months later, their Trustpilot rating crashed from 4.2 stars to 1.9. The AI was approving fraudulent returns, missing fraud, giving people wrong information about their accounts, security issues, and they quietly started hiring customer service reps again. Almost like AI can't completely replace customer service agents. A University of Pennsylvania study found that companies using AI customer service saw complaints go up 23% and resolution rates drop 14%. This isn't working at all, guys. And then there's Deloitte, one of the most prestigious consulting firms in the world. They submitted a $600 million study to the Australian government that turned out to be ChatGPT generated garbage. It was full of hallucinations, completely made up facts, and sounded plausible, but is all just wrong. The Australian Senate rightfully tore them a new one, and Deloitte had to pay back $400 million. One of the world's premier consulting firms, charging premium rates, submitted AI slop, and I guess just hoped nobody would notice. They did. So that's where we are. The financial model is broken. Companies are burning billions with no real path to profitability. The adoption numbers are terrible. Job placement is backfiring, and the whole thing is held together with circular financing scotch tape, not duct tape, because that would hold scotch tape, and it could all come apart at any moment. So, thank you for joining me for episode 1. In episode 2 of the Microslop Chronicles, we're going to take a look at the legal nightmare these companies are facing, because they are facing it. Billions in copyright lawsuits and other problems that they're encountering. A couple more stories of some CEO tears that I just love to eat up so much. And the increasingly desperate statements of their investment worlds falling apart. Anyway, if you want to see how this plays out, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Do want to let you know, this series is posted on both my channels, but let me just let you know a little bit about what those channels are, right? So this one is my Lady in Dev channel. This is where I'm going to go into more technology deep dives. If you want like how-to videos or coding things, like this is probably where I would do like live coding or troubleshooting, stuff like that. Tech history, a little bit more deep dives into the tech space that will live here. My Olive Badger channel will still have technology on it. This series will be on there as well. But if you don't care as much about the deep dives, that one's going to focus on more of the news, more gaming content. I'm hoping we can get the internet working where I'm at so I could do some game streaming and cover some entertainment. I would love to have you as subscribers on both these channels, but if you have one that you like more, go ahead and click subscribe anyway. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and peace out. Bye.